Hi, I'm Chelsea.
Hi, Chelsea. I'm Francis.
Nice to meet you, Francis. I'm going to be your social worker. So, what brings you in today?
Well, I got out of prison about 6 months ago. I've been struggling trying to find a job, which has been a real mess actually, because I got two kids. And I'm trying to pay child support on that, and it's just it's really difficult.
Okay. So, when you got out of prison, were there any resources provided to you to help you find a job?
There were a few, but most of them seemed kind of hollow, and they weren't very promising. So I've been kind of stuck on my own. Um, I've actually had to beg for money a few times, which has been really just it's painful for me as a person to have to do that because I always felt higher about myself.
Yeah, it sounds like you find that experience pretty degrading.
Incredibly so.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't think that I'd be this far into the bottom of the bucket.
Okay.
To be quite honest.
What's it been like for you looking for a job?
I was telling you before, it's pretty rough. I find the hardest thing is just when people find out that I was in prison. It feels like at that point it's useless, and it's hard for me to keep up my spirits because the way that they look at me changes. If you can understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so just to get a little bit more background on you, what's your living situation like at the moment?
Well, I'm in a halfway house right now. I've got a roommate. I live with 6 other guys, and we've got a dude there who watches over us, Charles.
Okay, so what's your experience been like in the halfway house?
It's actually been pretty good. The guys most of the guys seem pretty eager to want to help, and we've kind of all got each other's back because most of us don't really have anywhere else to go. So it's kind of like this loyalty and desperation thing that's going on, which is kind of cool. We got one dude, or gal, who he seems to not be trying hard at all, and he's always trying to get us to do things on the side. Like, I think that he's back on substance abuse, and he tries to pull us down with him, and it's hard for us to, one, say no to that when we've all had troubles ourselves, and then two, try to help him better himself while still dealing with our issues. So it's just kind of a whole other problem on top of what I'm already dealing with.
Yeah. So, so you're saying that you have had a problem with substance abuse in the past?
It's a problem that I identify now. When I was there, I never would classify myself as an addict, but it's definitely, having sold drugs, which, is what I was in jail for. And then, when you're in the scene selling drugs, you can't help but use them. And it's just probably why I got caught, because I was out of my wits. And so I can definitely say that doing these drugs kind of played a negative role in a lot of areas of my life up until now. And so it's just something that I don't even want to get back into. And it's been a real struggle having someone there who is challenging me in this way. It's not fun.
Okay. And how would you say that he's challenging you? Give me an example of what he does that makes you uncomfortable.
Sometimes, like, when we all happen to have a day off, or we just need a break, we'll do a barbecue or something, and we'll go grill, or we'll go to the park, or go out to eat or something. And, at some point, he'll always pull, one of us to the side and try and get us included in his activities. Which I've been very strong-willed and been able to say no up to this point, but I'm in a very depressed state right now, and I don't know how much longer I can keep saying no if things don't get any better for me.
Well, I think it says a lot about you that you've been able to say no up to this point, and you've been that strong-willed. I mean, that surprises me. But let's see.
I guess, like, I'm trying hard to get my life turned around. I've got 2 little girls that mean the world to me, and I want to provide to them as a father that I haven't been able to these last 10 years that I've been away.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm trying to make amends, and it's been a real struggle.
And what's your relationship like at the moment with your girls?
They know who I am, but I'll put it this way: they know of me, and I've met them several times, but we don't have any real connection. I try and write, and now that I'm out, I try and see them, but their mother isn't too fond of having a convict around. I don't think she thinks that I'll be a good influence to them. So I'm trying to prove her wrong, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
um, because I don't know. I didn't have a father growing up, and I don't want to do that to my kids. And I honestly feel like shit for having done as much as I did already, because they don't deserve that. I told myself the day that they were born that I would never be that way to them, and here I am. And so.
Okay, and could you tell me more about the relationship with their mother?
Claude, she's a real piece of work. Um, she gets a little judgmental, I think, and she makes it very hard for me to have any sort of relationship with them. I really have to fight and struggle, and I think that Stephanie, my oldest daughter, she really, I sense that she's got this desire to have some sort of connection and to build a relationship with me. I think that's the only reason I get to see them as often as I do, even though it is, once or twice a month, if at most.
So, what makes you feel that Stephanie has that desire to have a connection with you?
She's the only one who responded to any of my letters. Now that I'm out, we've talked on the phone several times outside of us having our meets. And I just overall feel like she is. I want to. It's kind of like an edgy happy, but she seems happy when we're together. Which brightens my life up tremendously, and it makes me want to work that much harder.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. What's your younger daughter's name?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. And could you tell me more about your relationship with Elizabeth?
She seems very taken aback by my presence.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's the correct wording there or not. She's just very on edge. She doesn't talk much. She stares at me for a long time. I think it almost feels unreal to her to a certain degree, just because she was still a baby, baby when I went away, and I'm a complete stranger to her, whereas Stephanie was like 4 years old, and so we had time to make some sort of bond before that happened, and me not being there, and with their new stepfather, Mark, and he's seems to have moved into more of a fatherly role than I will probably ever be. And so now I feel like this stranger trying to insert myself into her life, and it's hard. At times I feel like it's not even worth the effort. Maybe I should be focusing on me and getting my life together and getting a job, and then maybe at that point I can. But then on the other hand, it's just like I don't want to be the dad that gets out and never talks to his daughter again. I feel like I have to start now, even if it is hard. Mm. And it gets discouraging. Absolutely gets discouraging. But like I said, they're my little girls. They mean everything to me.
It definitely sounds like you're having a lot of trouble feeling motivated to maintain that relationship, especially with their new family situation with their stepfather and everything that's going on in your own life. I'm sure that's pretty difficult.
You have no idea.
Yeah. So you mentioned again your job search and how maybe you should focus on that. So do you feel as though you've made progress so far?
I think so. I've definitely been working at it. I've dropped off probably several dozen applications. I was a professional in the advertising world for a little while, doing mild graphic work before I started selling drugs. I actually did go to school, so I know how to put together a resume, so I've been handing those out, and I've just been trying to get in touch with how I was performing before I started selling drugs. Um, so I feel like I'm doing everything right at this point. It's just, you see Fallon on there, and it's like a big fat no.
And
Just,
are these jobs that you've been looking for mainly in advertising as you've done in the past?
I've sent in some, but I feel like that's a lost cause at this point. I don't have any recent professional activity. I don't have a portfolio to speak of anymore that got lost. So I really have nothing to apply to a professional job. Like, I just need some income right now. Like, just anything.
Yeah.
Gas stations, the grocery store, the janitor. I've applied to. I'll be a busboy. I need some sort of income at this point.
Yeah. What's it like for you applying to those jobs after having been in a professional field?
It's it feels like a joke, honestly. It's like I used to pay these guys to take care of my life, so that I could have the luxuries to be waited on by them, and now I'm applying to be in this service industry and catering to the jackasses that I used to be. So it's definitely demeaning, not anywhere near as bad as begging for money. Like, I have a new appreciation for it. These guys are busting their ass out there trying to make a living, and I'm here, asking for change on the corner just because I can't get their job. It's definitely put a lot of things in perspective for me, but I still feel like my skills are being squandered. I feel like I'm so much more than that, but who am I to judge at this point? I've been in jail for 10 years. Like,
yeah, it sounds like
I have any room to talk.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like you're maybe feeling a little hopeless after having been in that field and reverting back to these jobs that you never thought you would have to have.
I think hopeless is a little bit of an understatement at this point. Depression gets really bad sometimes. But when you're living your life for not yourself, it's a lot easier to stay focused on what matters.
So I'm interested that you mentioned depression. Tell me more about what that feels like for you.
It started in prison. That initial transition from being on top of the world, having more money than you could imagine, being able to buy anything I want, go anywhere I want. People respected me. I had what they needed. To the nicest of cars. I had a beautiful house, sexiest women, and didn't go to jail and like be scared that you're gonna get your ass beat on a regular basis, having to like totally change your personality to. You gotta get in touch with like this almost animal side of you just to survive, because you can't be seen as weak. And not to say that I was weak before, like if someone owed me money, I'd definitely be able to go get it from them, and then people were scared of me because of that. But I was a nice guy too. I didn't have to be that way, and now I have to be that way. And then, so transforming who I am, what I identified myself as, being this successful, dominant person, to being this like timid, scared, not having anything, and now out of prison, definitely not having anything. Like, I don't even have the status that I did amongst the other inmates. I'm like just a leaf in the wind, like a worm in the ground. I'm nothing. Like, I'm nothing at this point. People don't even know that I exist. I can't even get a job. What kind of father am I? Like, why am I even here? do I don't even deserve this opportunity. Honestly, parts of me wish that I was back in prison, just because at least there, like I could eat. Like I had people. I had some friends. The guys in the halfway house are great, but like I told you before, it's like this desperate loyalty because we need each other because we don't have anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I got my girls, and that's what keeps me going. But
It sounds as though you feel kind of isolated with this new identity. Would that be accurate to say?
I think isolation is a good word. I definitely feel this constant state of loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
I live every day just waiting for the next opportunity to see the smile on my two little girls' face. Um, but yeah, I did. Isolation is a great word because I feel like I don't have anybody. I've got the guys, but like even having friends doesn't keep you from being lonely. And I don't even know if I can call them friends. Like, are they actually going to be there for me?
Is this isolation something that translates into your feeling of depression?
I don't know how you mean.
So, when you say you feel depressed, what makes you think that you're depressed? What signs do you see in yourself?
I think the fact that I don't want to live
Okay, so do you
is
feel
a good indication that I'm depressed.
Do you feel suicidal?
Yes and no. I can't say that I'd still be here if I didn't have people that mattered to me that I was living for.
Mm-hmm.
If like I didn't have a family to come out to, I don't know if I would have made it this far, honestly.
Okay. Well, it sounds like your family is definitely an important support system for you. Other than your girls, and is she your ex-wife?
Yeah.
Or other than your girls and your ex-wife, do you have more family that you are in contact with?
My mom died when I was 13. Cancer. Son of a bitch. I feel like we're all gonna die from it. Like, how we're all dying from cancer. It's just. And then, I lost contact with my dad in my early 20s, and he was an old man. He had me late in game, and I think that, who knows? He could have kicked the bucket at this point. I haven't talked to him in, 15 years.
Why is that you haven't talked to him?
He's a bit of an asshole.
And what do you mean by that when somebody's an asshole?
He's just your, typical country hard ass, I was never good enough for him. I didn't go into the family business, and, I moved to the city, and I think he knew that I was doing, I don't think he knew, but I think he had an idea that I was doing drugs, and, like, the women that I was running around with weren't that great, and, like, I was a successful professional, but like my lifestyle was definitely not to his Christian standards, and like, our other brother was gay, and he totally disowned him, and then my brother died, just a few years before I got locked up, to be honest.
And is your brother your only sibling?
Yeah, he is. He's probably the reason that I got caught, is because I stopped selling so much and started doing more when he passed.
Mm.
And if I wasn't so fucked up when I got arrested, I probably wouldn't have gotten arrested. My head wasn't on the swivel that it needed to be. I wasn't paying attention.
So tell me more about how you think that your brother's death contributed to your substance use.
Aside from the girl I was dating at the time, and my little girl, she was only like 1 or 2 at the moment, at the time. He's my only family. Like, the only person I had to call kin. And, you can build a family. You can have a wife and you can have kids, but it's not quite the same. You know, you don't have any connection to where you came from without family. And when he died, like that was lost. And like, I couldn't overcome it. You know, we did everything together. It's like day one. You know, we were sidekicks. It's like, you know, it's like losing half my brain.
That wasn't all too bad.